Good morning to those of you who are tuning in from Europe, and good afternoon to those of you who are tuning in from China, and good whatever if you're tuning in from somewhere else in the world. First of all, welcome to today's session that's hosted by the EUSME Center together with the Fintech Hub and also with support of Eurochambres. Today's topic will be under the topic of money transfers in China. We call it the revolution of cross-border payment solutions. So once again, thank you all for tuning into today and joining this session. We are lucky today to have 3 cases to be able to share with you from 3 different companies operating in this field. But before we get to those sessions, I would just like to share with you all a little bit about what the EUSME Center is and how the EUSME Center can hopefully benefit your European business on the Chinese market. So the EUSME Center, first to tell a little bit about it in broad strokes, the EUSME Center is an EU Commission funded project that has been operating since the year of 2010, so 12 years now in total. The purpose is to help European small and medium-sized enterprises in getting ready to do business in China. Right now, today, we are currently in our 3rd phase, as we call it, of the project, which has been running for around 17 months now, since October 2020, and will continue to run a little bit longer. So we will have more projects in the future as well. The EUSME Center helps prepare European SMEs to do business in China by providing a range of different services that I will talk a little bit more about very soon. The EUSME Center is also an official member of the Enterprise Europe Network, and so far today has partnered with over 270 government agencies and business support organizations in both Europe and in China. Here in phase 3, we are operating from an office that we have in the capital of China, in Beijing, but we also are boots on the ground in Europe as well. Now, the EUSME Center is implemented by 5 associations in total. It is led by the Italian Chamber of Commerce in China, also implemented by the China-Britain Business Council, the Danish Chamber of Commerce in China, which is where I am working, usually when I'm not doing the EUSME Center stuff. Then we also have the Eurochambres organization, and finally the European Union Chamber of Commerce. So those are the 5 implementing partners of the EUSME Center in phase 3. But what does the EUSME Center do? I'll just explain that very briefly. Roughly, you can divide it into 4 different categories. The first one is a knowledge center. What that means is that the EUSME Center on our website provides a long range, nearly around 200 reports on different aspects of doing business in China and different sectors of doing business in China. All of these reports can be accessed free of charge on our website, the eusmecenter.org. So please check that out. And we're also always very open to any suggestions you might have for which topics to cover in future reports that may not already have been covered yet. So that's for the knowledge center. The second part of what the EUSME Center is doing is it operates as an advice center. And there are basically 2 ways that we do that. One of them is that we have implemented a new tool. We call it the self-diagnosis tool. And the purpose of that is basically for European SMEs to be able to have a simple way of testing how ready your company may be to enter the Chinese market. So if you go on our website, you can find the self-diagnosis tool. You answer a couple of questions, and based on your questions, the tool will give you some suggestions as to what perhaps to look further into if you want to expand your business in China or even enter for the first time. So please check that out. That's also free of charge to use. Now, under the advice center, we also like to highlight that on our website, we have a function that's called Ask the Expert. Ask the Expert is a good opportunity to ask your question on Chinese business. It could be regarding any sector, it could be regarding policies, it could be regarding anything that may be relevant for your business in China. So Ask the Expert function is also free of charge to use. You can ask basically anything, and then in around 5 working days, our team of experts will get back to you with an answer that is hopefully useful for your company. Now, the third thing I'd like to highlight is that the EUSME Center is also operating as a training center. That is what we are doing today. That is why we're all here today. So we organize a couple of workshops, seminars, both online as we do today, but also sometimes offline, either in China or in Europe. Sometimes it is online and offline at the same time. And the topics that we cover are basically around any topics that could be interesting to the suggestions that we get, including today's topic of money transfers in China. The fourth and final aspect that I want to mention of the EUSME Center is that it also operates as an advocacy platform. And what that means is that the EUSME organizes meetings with both the European and Chinese authorities, and we arrange workshops that people who sign up through the workshops can also participate in. They can be about regulation updates and so on for changes that would influence European SMEs operating in China. Now, today's event is not the only event that the EUSME Center is doing, but thank you all for joining. We hope that we will see you as well in future events, and here on the slide there are a couple of our next sessions. But if you check on our website, you can see the full list of activities that we have scheduled so far, and that will be updated continuously. Now, before we get into today's session, one extra little technical thing that I'd just like to mention is that we will have a panel discussion and a Q&A session at the end of today's session. So after our three experts have delivered their cases, you will be able to ask them questions. The way you do that is by using the Q&A function down in the bottom of the platform here of Zoom. And then we will submit your question anonymously to the experts at the end of the session. So if you have a question already now, you can submit it now, or you can do it as we go along. I will highly suggest you to ask the questions that you have now. So that is the final thing that I would like to introduce about the EUSME Center. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, today's session is organized by the EUSME Center together with Fintech Hub, with the support of Eurochambres. And now it is also my honor to give the floor to Mr. Titus, who will introduce a little bit about Fintech Hub and what they're doing in Fintech Hub. So Titus, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Titus, and I will just talk for a few minutes about Fintech Hub, Lithuania, and about fintechs in Lithuania. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the term. Fintech basically means financial companies providing financial services and using technology to do it. So a little bit about myself. I am chairman of the board of Fintech Hub LT Association. You will hear about it in a bit. I am also a board member for two fintechs in Lithuania, one of them being 7Cs, which works with Chinese market for the last 5 years, mostly or particularly with Chinese e-commerce sellers in Europe. Also another one, LuxPay, which works with luxury brands, opening accounts, electronic money accounts for them. And I'm also a director of a company that provides non-financial consulting services to e-commerce companies, mostly from China as well. I previously have worked in another fintech company in the Central Bank of Lithuania and commercial banks in Lithuania. You can see my contacts here. If you have any questions, I'm sure you have a chance to ask at the very end of the event. So a little bit about the Fintech Hub LT. So it's an association, members-based association. We have currently 58 members, I think actually maybe a little bit more, and 11 sponsors to actually see what kind of members we have. It's basically licensed, mostly licensed financial institutions in Lithuania. Almost 80% of them are electronic money institutions. And we have a few neobanks, we have a few payment institutions, we have other companies like crowdfunding, P2P platforms, and a few are not yet licensed, but underway. And we as an association have started our activities in 2017. and we have been constantly growing. What we do is pretty much, on the slide, we represent, first of all, the industry interests. So the fintech interests in Lithuania, which means that we have regular meetings with the regulators, first of all, Bank of Lithuania, Ministry of Finance, Financial Conduct Authority, and so on. We also work to improve the perception of fintech ecosystem in Lithuania, Europe, worldwide, which basically means PR to general public on explaining what fintech is, what it does, and how it is different from traditional incumbent commercial banks. Also, we work on community building, which means we just participate in the events like that, we organize them, and we are happy to kind of share our knowledge and invite companies, our members, to also do the same. And we serve, well, I guess one of the most important things, we serve as a platform for knowledge sharing for local companies, also for the foreign companies that come to Lithuania to open an office here, or just to, visit and see. And we organize, of course, quite a lot of events. You will see it later. One of the new things that we started recently is self-regulation. We as association, which has, well, 90%, 95% of our members licensed financial institutions, we thought that self-regulation could be one of the ways forward. And basically what it means is that we have quite extensive due diligence questionnaires when accepting the member. We have annual compliance checklist or questionnaire for our members, just to collect the data on the health of the financial sector, on the health of our members. We also have code of ethics, which is very extensive, and every member signs it, and we hope we follow it. We also encourage them to share the code of ethics on their websites. Basically, it covers pretty much everything, including employees, partners, clients, regulators, and so on. For 2021, we had quite busy year. Basically, I think normally we would have tens of events, live or online. Hopefully we'll have more live throughout the year. We have hundreds of meetings with potential newcomers of fintech newcomers to Lithuania, regulators, anything else you can imagine. And a few last slides from my side. I would like to tell you about fintech in general in Lithuania. Obviously, association has been growing together with the fintech sector in Lithuania. There are quite a few reasons why. I don't think I'm going to go into that. If you are interested, just let me know privately. We can discuss it. Basically, we calculate today that we have around 300 or more than 300 of fintech companies. And as I mentioned before, we consist of licensed financial companies, which are usually smaller ones, and use the technology to provide their financial services. Also, enablers, as we call them, so IT companies that help these financial companies to provide these financial services. And we calculate, as I said, more than 300 of them, increasing every year. On the right-hand side, you can see that Lithuania has become, after Brexit, #1 country in licensed financial companies which are non-commercial banks. So basically, we are #1 in electronic money institutions and payment institutions and specialized banks in European Union. And well, I think Lithuania has been quite successful in the last 5 years to become the fintech hub, and really hope it moves forward. And for the very end, a few numbers about the sector itself. You can see that, well, we did some investigation on the turnover or income revenue of fintech companies, the ones that we calculated, and we basically see that, well, it all started with more licensed companies coming, like electronic money institutions, payment institutions, lending. some blockchain companies, of course, and we see that quite a lot of financial software companies followed. And on the right-hand side, you can see that now financial software companies, which is called by someone RegTech companies, which basically helps financial companies to meet the regulatory requirements or provide some services. We have been the biggest sector in terms of revenue, while electronic money institutions, payment institutions, they have been growing tremendously as well in the last few years. So thank you very much. I would like to thank the EUSME Center for organizing this event together with Eurochambres. Thanks, Nikolai. I will pass the torch to other speakers. And if you have any questions, as I mentioned, I will be happy to answer them at the very end.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Titus, for the collaboration with the EUSME Center. We're very happy to do these activities together to benefit both your members, but also the larger European SMEs in general to enter the Chinese market and provide these updates. So thank you to you and to Fintech Hub for the collaboration. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, today we have 3 cases of companies sharing their insights and their knowledge on the field. And I'm very glad to introduce the first one. That will be Mr. Philip from Nihao Pay. So Philip, if you are ready, then perhaps Titus, you can close down the screen share here, and then we can get to Nihao Pay's introduction.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Very nice to talk to you this morning and to be first up of the case studies. Now, this is technical issue here already. Is it?
Maybe you click with the mouse on the screen. Maybe that works. Click on the slide.
Okay. And there we go. Okay, now let's see. So good morning, everyone. My name is Phelim Mead. I'm based in Dublin in Ireland. And I've had 10 years experience of trading in and selling into China from Ireland and assisting and helping other companies within the EU trade into China since just nearly coming up on 10 years now. So my background is I'm a co-owner of a consultancy business called Emerald Green Consulting. We specialize in e-commerce, retail, and fintech. Have firsthand experience of doing business in China. This all started off back in 2012 when I started to do drop shipping from Ireland into Hong Kong. In 2013, we expanded from doing drop shipping from Ireland into mainland China. Then in 2016, moved the logistics from Dublin over to the free trade zone in Shanghai. The key thing about doing business in China that I've found since 2012 is being boots on the ground, about visiting. And unfortunately, that hasn't been possible in the last 2 years. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit about, the e-commerce and money transfers, about how that's pivoted in the last 2 years, about actually doing money transfers in China, doing it from EU rather than doing it from mainland China. What I do is I work with brands, state agencies throughout Europe, Middle East, and Canada. And just to make a point is that I'm not an employee of Nihao Pay. Really, what I am is that I'm a licensee allowed to sell and to advise on it within Europe and within Ireland. And that's come from having used Nihao Pay since 2013. So what is Nihao Pay? I suppose, as you all know, if you're doing business in China, Chinese consumers mostly do not use credit cards and do not have access to Visa or MasterCard, nor do they end up using Stripe or any of the other payment mechanisms that we might use in the West. So really there are three dominant partners, which is Alipay, WePay, and UnionPay. Nihao Pay as a company is a unique one-stop service to be able to do e-commerce in China. It's got a lot of firsts. It's within the kind of UK, they were first to process WePay in the US, first to Alipay, to processing Alipay in the US, and also very early on adopters in UnionPay. It's able to be used, again, of course, all the platforms mentioned on the bottom. So it's not just be able to use online, you can use it in-store, use it with mini programs, and it's you're able to use it across all of the different e-commerce platforms and also using the 3 dominant payment companies. So a little bit about our journey of how we used it and where I think there's opportunities for EU companies. So back, we started off selling on a Western website into Hong Kong. Then in 2013, we started selling on Taobao. Now, to do e-commerce in China, we needed to be able to act like a Chinese company and sell in RMB. And for that, we needed to be able to, first of all, get onto a Chinese website, which we started off on Taobao in 2013. And we needed a payment gateway. We needed to be able to interact with Chinese consumers, sell in RMB, and be able to get the money back into Europe. So we chose NiHaoPay back in 2013 to do that. And this is our website that we set up in 2015. We had our logistics integrated into the WeChat. We had the payment gateway, which was NiHaoPay. And as I said, we've been using this since 2013 on Taobao, but using it across many platforms. And what we were able to do then is that we were able to do e-commerce as if we were a Chinese website, offering seamless payments with the Chinese consumer. So really the kind of flow of money and how it all works really is that when the Chinese consumer goes on to any platform, in this case, it was our WeChat store, is that they would purchase a product and they would buy that product in RMB in real time, so that the actual payment was deducted from the Chinese consumer in real time. What happened then is that the money flew into a payment gateway, which was NiHaoPay. That NiHaoPay then would do the transaction and convert it into whichever currency you choose. So it could be US, it could be Euro, it could be Krona, it could be whatever currency you wished. And then transaction plus 4 days, you would be able then as a customer to be able to bring that money back to your bank account. At full times during this process, we had, and again, I'm coming this as I was the customer and that, or the client, is that I had an account with NiHaoPay, so that when our transaction happened with our end user, that we would be able to follow the money trail for 4 days on a back end sort of website, and that at the end of 4 days, we could choose then to actually hold the money in the escrow account, do the transfer then, do the transfer at the end of the month, or do the transfer when our escrow account had reached a certain limit. So at full times, we had total control of the flow of money, and at transaction plus 4 days, we were able to decide then where we actually wanted to put the money. So really, what has changed? Well, what I've really noticed is that Chinese businesses in Europe have begun to pull back a little bit in exporting into China. So during the COVID times is that, first of all, it was absolutely impossible to visit China. Having visited China every 8 to 10 weeks, not being able to go to visit China, not be able to do business, certainly was an impediment for me to doing business. And what I've noticed is an awful lot of clients and an awful lot of businesses within Europe have really decided not to be looking at China at this moment. Another interesting trend that I've seen is that there is a lot of strong brands emerging in China, that a lot of trust has been built up with domestic companies in consumer goods and cosmetics and food. Now, this isn't the same case in the kind of high-end or branded goods, but certainly in the mid-market goods, there's a huge trust being built up by the Chinese consumer and Chinese brands, so that the Chinese market isn't as a destination or as important for EU brands or worldwide brands looking into China. Again, too, there's, I think, been misinformation too over the years about kind of COVID coming in on packaging from goods. And there's been issues even this year before the Olympics of COVID coming in on packages coming in from Singapore and Hong Kong. And I think this has dampened down cross-border e-commerce a little bit. And we also had new legislation that came in 2022 in January, which again made it a little bit more stricter and difficult to actually do e-commerce in China. And I think the rule of thumb that I've always worked on and advised brands is that when they're going into China, the Chinese market, you need to put double the effort and triple the cost. It is not a panacea where you just sell your products into China and you're going to do business. It is a very, very difficult market, and it's a very costly market to go in. So they're the kind of changes that's happened over the last 2 years, from actually transacting as if you are in China. So what I wanted to talk about today is, could we actually look at reversing that? And was there any benefit, or was there any cost benefit of actually trying to reverse this procedure? So what I kind of find is that if a business is actually looking to go into China, there's most likely that they actually have a domestic website, that they're actually doing e-commerce in Europe, and they have a whole fulfillment procedure in Europe. So why create another sales channel in a different country with whole warehousing facilities and whole different payment mechanisms? Why not try to integrate a solution into your existing operation, which would allow you to do e-commerce in Europe rather than having to do this in China? And this is what we worked on over the last 2 years with WeChat Pay, certainly from an Irish perspective, and with a number of other companies as well. So here's a little case study in relation to jomashop.com. So I'm going to just bring you through the process of a company where we actually integrated the WeChat Pay solution into their existing website. This is a kind of a screenshot, and we're going to go through about 7 screenshots of the order process. So if you can see from this, you have your Amazon Pay and your PayPal, but below that, we've integrated then the Alipay, WePay, and Union Pay into the shopping experience of this Western e-commerce website. So again, the Chinese consumer can choose to pay in any of the 7 different payment mechanisms here. In this case, they're going to pay with WePay. Then what happens is that you are brought onto the confirmation page. And if you notice too, it's still in dollars at the moment. So we're still on the domestic US website here. The Chinese consumer has decided that they're going to pay with WePay. They process the order, and then we're brought into this kind of a new hosting page, which is quite common for Chinese consumers, where they see a QR code and it's represented by WeChat here. And then you get into the screens, which is actually within the WeChat platform. So that if you notice here that it's now converted into RMB, and the Chinese consumer now is going to deciding that they're going to pay with WeChat, and they're happy with the price in RMB. Again, this is quite familiar. They're quite standard with Chinese consumers, is they have to put in their 6-digit code to authorize the payments. The payment is then authorized. They get receipts both from WeChat and WeChat Pay, and then they're brought back into the actual website where they get a confirmation. So this is what I found was really interesting, is that from having done this for 9 years, where we've actually tried to set up websites, platforms, be it Redbook, Kaola, Taobao, WeChat, and where we've had to then integrate and do all the payment mechanism. China, what we started to do then over the last few years was integrate this into Western websites. What it allows you to do then is it allows you to bring the fulfillment, the logistics linked in with the customs, rather than actually moving all of your stock, bringing it over into a Chinese warehouse. You can do all of the processing, you can do all of the sales channel, all of the marketing, and everything from your existing fulfillment center in Europe. So we have done this with a number of businesses in Ireland over the last 2 years during COVID. And we've just found this like a really sensible solution, is that if you were looking at dipping your toe into the Chinese market, this is a much more cost-effective way to decide whether China is for you or not, rather than going to all of the expense of trying to move the products into China. why not integrate into your existing website and dip your toe into the water in China? Again, just finally, just a little bit of the flow of the money when you do this in a Western website. It's very similar in that the transaction happens in real time for the customer. The money goes into a payment gateway, exactly the similar as it would before. This is based off the US information. It's transaction plus 2 days. It's transaction plus 4 days for European websites. And again, you as the customer have a dashboard where you're able to follow the money during this the 4-day period. And as I said, you can decide then at what time you want to bring the money from the escrow account, the payment gateway, into your own domestic account. And thank you very much. That was just a quick overview of Nihao Pay and how I have used it over the last 9 years, both in China and here in Ireland in domestic European websites.
Thank you very much, Philip, for sharing your experiences on operating in the Chinese market and also sharing the case of Nihao Pay. We have already received a couple of questions for you, but I just want to say that we will get to the questions at the end of the session, and that will be in around half an hour or so. So if you have your questions, please continue to submit them. If you want to ask your question to a specific expert presenting today, then be sure to write that in the comments, else we will just share them out for all the speakers to reflect on. So once again, Philip, thank you for that presentation. And that brings us to the second case that we have today. And for the second case, that will be, we'd like to invite Justus. And Justus, he's the CEO of Pan Europe. So Justus, if you would like to share your case now, then the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. You should see my screen already.
Yes, it seems it is loading up now.
Yeah, so my name is Justus. I am CEO of Pan Europe. And Pan Europe is a family. We are a group of companies. We started our operations between China .
All right, seems we're having some technical issues here, but I think Justus, he will be trying to rejoin us in just 1 second. So Justus, if you can hear me, Justus, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. I assume that it's some kind of crash of Zoom.
Yes, fantastic. We can see your slides now and hear you just fine.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so okay. So we started our businesses in 2017, where we applied for a license in European Union, and at the end of 2017, we approved for a license. But in parallel, we also set up our business in Hong Kong and United States, where we applied for financial licenses as well. And we got approved for MSO license in Hong Kong and a money service license in the United States, and which basically allows us to offer wide services for our customers. So as mentioned before, we're focusing on our businesses. We're doing the trade between China, the European Union, United States, and we're helping moving funds for businesses based on the trades. 2019, we launched in-house internet bank for our customers. Our service portfolio improved. Remote account opening, exchange, remittances and settlement business being offered for our customers. In 2020, we started offering institutional customers services. And as for last year, our group reached more than 500 million trade volume per month in dollars. So as mentioned before, in Europe, we have electronic money institution license issued by Bank of Lithuania. Hong Kong, we have money service operator license, and PanPay USA has MSB license. The product logic in PanPay is that we are offering for customers multi-currency bank accounts, real-time interbank exchange, global payments and receipts, large volume payments for financial institutions, and payouts to the cards like Union Pay, WeChat Pay, and as well. And on the other side, our architecture is connected to the SEPA local payment system, PPS, barcode, CHAPS payment collections in pounds in United Kingdom, ACH and wire payments in dollars, SWIFT payouts, and other currencies can be cleared via our current corresponding partners. We see that the global currency settlement is mainly 80% of these payments globally is covered by dollars, euros, and British pounds. And actually all the business trades mostly is doing by these currencies, and which we are focusing and serving for our customers. For the product content, what we're offering for our customers, we are dividing our services for corporates in our corporate customers to two types of customers. So it's basically general trade companies who are sending money, buying some kind of stuffs in wholesale based on contracts, and e-commerce trade. So basically it's those companies who are selling on Amazon, eBay, Wish, and similar platforms. And what makes us very attractive for our customers is that we're able to collect all these payments very fast, within 1 day, because we're connecting to the local clearing systems, and all the payments can be collected within 1 day to the customer accounts and then transferred back to China if it's Chinese customers, also within 1 day. For institutional users, we also have services to provide as e-commerce collection accounts for air takers and travel agencies, e-commerce collection accounts, currency exchanges. Payment companies can connect to our system to have collection accounts to do Swiss payment, currency exchanges and settlements, and for that we have API connections on board, and this can be done without the need to log into internet bank. And also we have set up for freight forwarding companies that it's needed general trade collection accounts and basically doing all the payments. So why the global banking is important and why we're focusing on that is that the European Union and China is a larger trading partner. And in 2020, China already overtook United States and become a European Union largest trading partner. Most of this trade is industrial and manufactured goods. So basically, we are focusing on these customers, on these businesses, and providing the services for them. And of course, without any trade cannot be done without financial transactions under it. So I have a few use cases how we are helping our customers. So one of the case is where we have a company from China. So it will be an exporter who is selling goods to a European Union company. That will be a buyer. So the problem is that if you want to receive a payment from a buyer, you need to provide the international bank account to receive payment, and it's usually is being done via SWIFT. And the problem is that the SWIFT payments in banks are processed significantly longer than fintech companies can provide it. And once the exporter is receiving payment in China bank, so this company usually needs to physically provide export documents, invoices, and bill of lading to the bank in order to this funds will be realized. And once currency received, exporter needs to exchange this currency to onshore RMB. So it's additional cost for them. And all this process is significantly impacts working capital and business flow for the exporter and for buyers. So the solution what PAMPI is offering, so we do have remote account opening capabilities. So we can open an IBAN account in Europe in euros, and this exporter can provide this account to his buyers and receive the payments within 1 day via SEPA payment system, collect all these payments to the accounts. And the second step, the customer can choose what he wants to do. He can send to his home bank account and take care of clearing all the papers to the bank, do the currency exchange, etc., pay for his supplier, or use PAMPay service. We call it one-click referral service, OCV. So basically, it means that we will take care for the customer to get approvals for the currency exchange and settle onshore RMB to the customer's home bank account in China. And all this process, like for example, if you're collecting the payments, you get within 1 day, you get a SEPA payment. If you want, you can do it, settle OCV payment the same day. And next day, you already can expect money on your China bank account. Next case is vice versa. So the European company wants to buy goods from China factory. So in this case, factory is shipping goods only once the payment is credited to his bank account, and the factory wants to receive onshore RMB, which is a local currency for him. So the problem here is that European company would need to open RMB account in his bank, exchange euros, pounds, or dollars to offshore RMB, then send this payment via SWIFT. The payment processing can take up to 7 days. And once the receiver will get the notice that there is incoming payment, he again will need to provide exporting documents so the funds could be credited to his account. And then he would be able to exchange it to onshore RMB. So our solution would be that we are opening European customer account in euros. The customer can top up account from his home bank account within 1 day. And then customers can use our China link payment option, where receiver will get onshore RMB within 1 day. So we will take care about all the currency exchange issues. We will provide the documents, but actual customers will need to provide contract with a factory in advance, but we will take care of all the things about the currency exchange and delivering funds to the factory home bank account in onshore RMB. Also, there's like use cases what we are helping for companies, China companies for selling in European Union, Amazon, eBay, and other marketplaces. So in order to swiftly collect these payments, customers also can open accounts in euros or pounds and bind these accounts in these marketplaces, which allows also to collect money very fast, and then you can transfer it back to China within 1 day. And additional service that we do have now and an offering for our customers is, for example, a European company wants to start business cooperations with Chinese factory or some kind of company, but they cannot find as many information in English or other languages about this company. So he wants to check this company profile and credibility. The solution what we have is that our sister company, PanPay Shanghai, has a license, information systems license, which allows us to connect to the various registers in China and to collect the data for our customers. And we can provide very extended reports about the companies, so to make sure that this company is legitimate, how long he's working, who's beneficial owners, financial history, and etc. So this is how can we help establishing business relations with Chinese companies. So shortly, thank you very much. Here's our contacts if you wish to have more information from us. And I will give a word then to our colleague Agle.
Thank you, Eustace. I'll just say very brief thank you to you also for sharing the case of PanPan Europe. And exactly as you said, we are now moving on to our third case of today, where we are happy to have Egle with us. Egle, she is the CEO of 7Cs Finance. So Egle, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen. There we go. Please let me know if you can see the slides.
Everything loud and clear.
Perfect, great. So hello everyone. Hello to the other panelists. It's been really good to hear your presentations, and I will briefly go into mine and some technical issues. 1 second.
Only one thing, Egle. We see the PPT, the not the full screen version of it. Right.
Just a second. Let's try it again. Can you see the slides now? But it's still in the wrong
from inside PowerPoint program, so not the full screen slide presentation view, but we can still see the slide.
Yeah, but I think it's actually stuck, so I can't move them. Okay, let's try this one more time.
Maybe while Egle is trying to set it up, then maybe I can just make an extra reminder to everyone who's watching today that we will also be sharing the slides of today's presentation to you afterwards by mail. So in a day or so, you should receive on your mail address the slides for today, and also we will be sharing the video. We'll cut together the video presentation and share it on the EUSME Center YouTube channel. And still, just one extra reminder that we will also have the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So if you have any questions for Philium, if you have any questions for Eustace, or if you have any question for Egle, afterwards we will have the panel discussion, and you can submit your questions there. Egle, will you be needing some more time? Because if you do, then we can just go into some of the questions already now that have been asked for Philium and Eustace.
Yes, can you please give me a minute? I think my entire PowerPoint is stuck, so yeah, I can't do anything.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
Okay, then I think Eustace and Philium, why don't we start with one of the questions that have been asked? And the first one was asked, Philium, while you were doing your presentation in the beginning. The question reads, we are operating a B2B business with Chinese partners. How could we pay the partners with low costs? Thanks.
Again, very simply, Nihao Pay does allow you to do, as far as I know, B2B. Again, there is a limit on it, but it does allow you to do kind of B2B payments. I haven't done it myself. I've always done B2C, and it's mainly just for e-commerce, but I do know that you are able to do B2B, but as I said, I haven't done it, but I know that Nihao Pay does facilitate it.
Thank you for that. And then maybe I can also ask another question. I think it is mainly still for you, Philip, but Eustace, you're of course also welcome to chime in if you have anything to add to these questions. But before we started the session today, and of course the same for you, Titus, if you have any input. But Philip, before we started today's session, we talked a little bit about which questions people usually ask. And one of the things that you mentioned, we have actually also received a question on. So that question is, what percentage does these services usually charge to do these transactions? And what are the fees involved? Sure. Maybe some reflections on that.
Yeah. So again, there are kind of two sets of charges to some extent. So that there are WeChat take a small, or sorry, the payment provider in China, Alipay, UnionPay, WePay, take a small percentage, like they do in every transaction that happens, in using their system. And also then there's the payment gateway, converting it into. So the range is between 2.9 and 3.9%, and that will depend on the amount and also which particular Chinese payment provider it is. If it's Alipay, WePay, or UnionPay, there's slightly different rates between each one, but it's 2.9 to 3.9. That will be the range.
Oh, okay, I think that was very good.
Yeah, that includes, as I said, the Chinese margin, whichever, and also the payment gateway. So that's an all-in margin. That's an all-in percentage.
Thanks for that. It's concrete, quite a concrete number. And Eustace and Titus, if there's anything else to add from your side, of course, just yell out loud. Eglin, I think we will just yeah, sure.
Maybe I can add that the question how much would charge B2B transactions in my case, but I presented the use case that if you need to pay to China, or you need like to do to send money to our home bank account in China. So OCV service that we are offering. So basically, if you want to do it within 1 day, we are charging it 1% from the amount. If it's not so fast, if you don't need that fast, like in 2 days, we are charging 0.5% from the amount. And basically it's includes the transaction fees and conversion fees with this transaction.
Thanks for that input as well, Eustace. Very, very concrete to the question. While we have been discussing this, and while you and Philip have reflected on this question, someone wrote in the chat, and I think it's kind of an extension of this, but what was written in the chat is what kind of solutions could you list them? So I'm not sure if it would be possible to list some of these solutions that are possible to use. Maybe some reflections off the top of your head.
Solution. I'm not entirely sure. I suppose where my perspective is, I'm a trader. I buy and sell, and fintech as my industry isn't sort of my my core business. I suppose what I see was having traded into China and done this in China and gone onto the Chinese platforms and brought the money back into Europe. What the kind of pandemic has done for me is basically reverse that, and rather than go to the expense of setting up in China, is basically put an API and a patch into your existing operation to allow you to dip your toe. So maybe I'm answering the question wrong, but it's really what the solution that I'm presenting today was really, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel in China, is maybe just do an add-on to your existing business that allows you just to test it out before you want to go further and deeper into it.
Thanks for those reflections as well, Philip. So someone else is writing in the chat. Very glad to hear some questions. So The question reads, is this correct, that Pan will charge a 5% in total? Maybe that's for you, Justas.
It's 0.5 or 1%. It's basically how fast you want to do that. 0.5 or 1%.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So it's always not a proper Zoom meeting unless there is some kind of a technical issue going on. I think we can all relate to that. It happens all the time. Egle, please just take your time. We can just continue with the Q&A. And
I think it should be working now. Let's give it a go if that's okay.
Okay, let's see.
Oh,
fingers crossed.
Let's try now. Okay. Can you see this? Ah, there we go, finally.
Yep.
There
Perfect.
we go.
So,
Okay,
great.
now it works. Fantastic.
Great. So thank you everyone for your patience. As Nikolai said, there's never a Zoom meeting, or it didn't happen if something didn't go wrong with the technology. Anyways, hello everyone. It's very nice to see to hear or read the audience and the questions in the panel, and to see the other panelists. I am Agla. I'm the CEO of 7 Seas Europe. I've been with the company for actually quite a short time, only over a month. And I come from NASDAQ. I've been working there for past 5 years, and I've also have some experience in the field of law. So at the Ministry of Economy, as well as some law firms. And before that, I also worked a little bit at Western Union with scam and fraud prevention. So if any of you have any questions in relation to that, I'm very happy to answer those and connect with you on LinkedIn, or you can just give me a message via email. So here's our team, 7 Seas Europe. We are currently 10 people in Vilnius office, and we are looking for one more as well. So if anybody interested, do look on our LinkedIn profile to find out more information. We are a very proud team. We have some Chinese-speaking employees, so we can provide support to our customers with any questions that may arise. And we also have some partners in China, Shanghai office. So in case there are any questions or issues, we are very willing and to look into those and help our clients to get the best support they need. So when it comes to the company, we belong to the 7 Seas group of companies. We've been established, I'd say, roughly 4 or 5 years ago, and we got our electronic money institution license at the end of 2017. We have connection to Central Link, so we provide fast SEPA payments in 29 European Union countries, as well as Great Britain. And our main goal is to provide support and to be a partner to companies, to e-commerce companies who are from China and Hong Kong, and they are selling across Europe on platforms such as eBay, Amazon, or Wish. And so what do we offer? Our main products are, of course, the fast SEPA payments that I just mentioned. In addition to that, we also have SWIFT payments. And of course, we provide the multi-currency accounts for clients in need. We also have a very low currency exchange rate. So in case anyone is in need of that, please do reach out for more details. We are very willing to support you on that. As mentioned on the previous slide, we are actually very, very proud to have Chinese-speaking members of the team in our Vilnius office. And the scope of the team is we actually provide support for our existing customers. We do the onboarding stage and, of course, the ongoing operations such as payments, transaction monitoring, and such. So in case there are any questions, and usually there are some from time to time, we can provide very fast support and answers to our customers. Also, we have partners in Shanghai office. So it's always much easier and much faster to communicate with them in case there are some specific cases or needs of the clients. So we collaborate very, very closely to provide the best support that any of the clients may need. Another thing that we are very, very proud of, and what I think puts us ahead of other institutions, is that we provide safe, quick, and fully digital onboarding process. So there is no need for our customers to be on the premises of our institution. Everything is done online via secure tools. We confirm identity of our customers, and we do the KYC process, and it's all fully digital. And of course, in case there are some specific needs or specific requirements of the customers, we are always open and willing to discuss those and find the best solutions, the best proposals that our clients may need. What's coming next? So we are planning on expanding our services and products, and some of those are listed here. So number one is RMB withdrawals. We are currently looking into the possibility to provide this for our clients. We are also working, and it's actually on the testing phase at the moment, regarding virtual accounts openings for our clients. And we definitely want to expand more on the currency side. So that's also something that we are working quite extensively on recently. And also our other project is to have the WeChat mini program. So to be able to see the statements of our clients' account balances in the WeChat program. So exciting new projects ongoing, and we hope that we will be able to go live with all of them in the nearest future. Something that I would like to mention, in addition to what has been said before, is that 7 Seas Finance Group is not just about the payments. We provide a little bit more than that. So for companies from China or Hong Kong that wish to, or for businesses that wish to establish companies here in Europe, we provide full support, and we help to ensure that they have smooth sailing, so to speak. So we support the company setup in the European Union. So that means that we can register the company. We ensure that all of the accounting and records are in place. We take care of the logistics, such as the physical premises of the office, as well as the telephony and things like that. Other pillar of these services is tax planning and compliance. So no surprise, every country has different taxation systems, and depending on that, we provide the support for our clients, and we make sure that everything is in compliance, that our clients follow the tax requirements and regulations established in that country, and we ensure that nothing is in breach in regards to that. In addition to that, we also make sure that the cross-border and financial solutions are in place. So meaning that all of the account openings in the banks, cross-border banking solutions, auditing is in place, insurance for the employees and such. And last but not least, we also manage the e-shops or provide support in this area. Meaning that if there are any disputes regarding frozen funds, or in case clients need more support in the digital marketing area or customer service in the local languages, so we are here to help in regards of all of these areas. So in short, that would be it about our company. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Great, thank you very much, Egli, and it was fantastic that we got everything set up. So so now that we have presented all the cases of today, that leads us into our panel discussion part. So in this part, we have already now received a couple of questions for you guys watching, but if you do have a question that you have not asked yet, then now is the time to use the Q&A function here in Zoom and get your questions submitted The earlier the better, so we can be sure to ask your question to the experts of today. So, okay, for this panel discussion, I can see we have all of you ready already. So why don't we just start with the first question? The first question is mainly, I think, perhaps targeted for Eustace or Titus for having more experience with the markets as well in Lithuania. The question reads, so based on your observations, what were the implications of the sanctions on Lithuania registered fintech companies in China, if any? So based on your experience, is there perhaps any takeaways here for some companies from Lithuania?
From my side, the answer will be very simple and short. It's none. We don't see any implications or consequences of that in China market.
Yeah, I can comment as well. We have seen requests from actually Lithuanian companies that buy goods in China, saying that the seller in China could not pay, that the buyer in China, the importer, could not pay for the goods from China using the commercial bank-to-bank payment or SWIFT payment, because Lithuania has been blacklisted in the systems of some banks, mostly government-owned banks, and we've seen cases like that. However, our advice was always use fintech, and for fintech it should work. And the reason is mainly because fintechs are not directly connected into SWIFT. They usually use other commercial banks in other jurisdictions to receive payments. Some of them, like PanPay or 7 Seas Europe, might even have an account in China or the UK, and they usually receive these payments through these partner banks rather than direct payment to Lithuania. That's the case we have seen several times actually in the recent months. There have been probably some other cases more about shipping or customs, not that much about financial institutions.
Yeah, I think it's in regards of fintech is well registered in Lithuania, so we don't see any impact for us as a fintech company. But as Titus mentioned, maybe some customers experience some problems with exporting goods or services, but we don't have any complaints as well from our customers that the customers can't send payment to China. So all is working and we don't see any impact on that.
Thanks, Titus and Eustace, for those reflections. Egle or Philip, anything to add for this question from your side? No? Does not seem to be the case. I guess this specific question is also a great example of how fast things can change in the geopolitical sphere for business, not only with China, but also including China. So thank you for those answers to those questions. Then we will move on to our next question here. The next question seems to be mostly directed to Philip and to Eustace for Nihao Pay and PanPay. So the question reads, Nihao Pay and PanPay, does any of those apply to C2C, consumer to consumer? What's the cost of using these services? The costs have been covered a little bit, but perhaps maybe some recap on that.
Yeah, just from our side, again, yes, C2C is permitted, can be allowed, and the charges, we don't, again, there's no difference between a corporate or a kind of a business, if it's B2C or C2C. I presume the amounts might be smaller, or maybe smaller, but and therefore that will be the range in pricing in the percentages. But no, it is possible to do like B2B, B2C, C2C. It works with all.
Yeah, and in terms of PanPay, you know, we are more focusing on business business related companies, B2B, B2C payments. So we're not so focused on C2C payments. So in general, we are not providing C2C payments, but we have a partnership with money remittance companies who are serving C2C payment in money remittance terms. So I think if you choose like some of money remittance companies that works with Chinese market, so it most probably could be that PanPay will help them to perform these transactions.
Thank you, Philip and Justus. I'm not sure if Eglave 7C's finance group is has anything to add for the C2C for this question. Does not really seem to be the case for this one. But let's move on to our next question that we have received here. So the next one is specifically for Philip, but I think for all of you others, so of course, welcome to add some extra comments. The question reads, Chinese consumers are usually very impatient and are used to receive their purchases very quickly. With your solution, business shipped from overseas to China, and with COVID, we can see a long shipment time and potentially high costs. So do you have information about how successful the business model can be compared to having local facilities, boots on the ground in China?
Really good question. And this is from kind of selling and doing this for so many years. So as I said, we started drop shipping in 2012, Hong Kong into mainland China. And then for exactly these reasons, because of the long shipping time and the demand of the Chinese consumer wanting the goods very quickly, we moved to the free trade zone in 2016, and we're doing nationwide delivery in China with 1 to 3 days. But I suppose this was really not driven from the consumer. This was really driven mainly from the business, in that when we were advising businesses throughout Europe about how to dip their toe into the Chinese market, the obvious and best way to go is absolutely bring your products to a free trade zone or go onto a platform and sell in China. That's great for the consumer, but I suppose I'm more focusing from the SMEs in Europe, is that if you want to dip your toe into the Chinese market, to me, the most cost-effective way to do this would be to do an API, an add-in onto your existing website and do the fulfillment as more as a marketing and as a test bed to see, do the Chinese consumer kind of like your product and get the customer feedback. When you share my slides, there's actually, after the Q&A bit, I've added in 2 slides of a small case study, which when you share with people, they'll see this. I didn't talk about it just for timing reasons, but it's really how we marketed a chain, an Irish pharmacy chain. And we had a kind of a Taobao account, which is equivalent to a Chinese Twitter. And what we did is that we started sending out tweets and marketing tweets to our followers with a link to this Irish pharmacy chain, which would bring them directly into their website, where we created just 1 page in Chinese to kind of, we didn't change the whole website. We just had 1 landing page in Chinese, which explained to the customer that this was, it would take a little bit longer, but it was going to be, Chinese customers were going to be paid. They were fully able to track it using EMS. So it's really, what we're trying to do is be company focused rather than consumer focused. The method I'm proposing is basically how a company can just try out the Chinese market without going to all the expense.
Thank you, Philip, for sharing that as well. And yeah, quite a limited time for the presentation slide part today, but now of course also a good chance to get into some of the extra aspects that you may have been wishing to talk about. I think there is kind of a follow-up question to this one, because one thing is COVID, one thing is what else is going on. I think the word disruption has been thrown out a lot, almost too many times sometimes, but also with a good reason. I think a lot of changes has happened very fast to cross-border market and also the payment aspect of it in the last couple of years. So the next question is kind of one that I would like to throw out for all of you guys here to reflect a little bit on what could potentially the future of cross-border payments look like. Any expectations, anything that seems to be changing, any trends? Perhaps I can throw it out, and anyone who wants to answer, you can just unmute yourself.
I would say the trends for the future payments is that governments are experimenting with digital currencies, and once it will be like widely tested and approved by the other countries, for using as international payments, so I see that it will be a future payments. I know that digital China digital currency is already being tested. I know that European Union is creating digital euro, and other mainstream currencies is also thinking about that. So I see that in a couple of years we will see like this demand is growing, and more tests and growth of digital currency payments will see in the market. And this will, I think, what it will be impacting the payment industry is that these payments will be done much more fastly, and less intermediaries will be in this payments journey.
Thank you, Eustace. And any additional comments on perhaps speculation or trends that you see for cross-border financial services? It's a good point bringing up the digital currencies being implemented. Any other thoughts or reflection from the rest of today's experts?
Yeah, Nikolai, I would probably add and agree with Eustace. I think the future is that all the payments, cross-border or local, will be at some point faster and cheaper than they are today. And if you look back to the times when we used to transfer cash via Western Union, now it's already faster and cheaper, and I think it will move forward. And it doesn't matter what technology behind it is. It blockchain, is it central bank issued digital currency, or any other normal currency, fiat currency. And this is, I think, how it's going to move forward. And at the same time, I think that clients, the users, will have more options how to pay or receive a payment, cross-border or locally again. This is why we have actually quite many fintechs and not even fintechs, incumbent commercial banks investing heavily in fintech, so-called fintech solutions. Obviously, it just expands our possibilities on how to pay, how to receive a payment, in what kind of way and what kind of currency.
Thanks, Titus, as well for those additional comments and reflections. If there is any other answers to this question, then please just interrupt me, else I will slowly move on to the next question. Maybe I can also just add that from living in China and observing how the Chinese system is often very fast to implement new technologies. I remember one case, the first time that I saw whenever you see a beggar on the street or something now in China, it's with QR codes. So no longer asking for cash, but asking for digital payments. So things do move quite fast when it comes to digital implementations of new technologies in the Chinese market. Okay, and I think the next question that we have received reads like this. International payments have long served as the engine enabling cross-border trade and have been instrumental in the emergence of today's global economy. Banks have traditionally been the natural owners of the cross-border market. they still are when it comes to high-value transactions. Excuse me. Do you think this will change in the future? So perhaps a little bit what we have been talking about, but any answers to this question?
Well, just kind of more an observation rather than anything. I think Ant Financial would have tried to be taking over the position from a central bank, and I think what history has shown us is that central banks probably nearly always prevail. So I kind of just think from a cross-border and would a private company sort of take the dominance of a central bank position? Certainly if you're doing it in China, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Thanks, Willem. And any additional comments to this question? Else, if not, we have received some more, and I'd just like to remind the audience watching that we have around 8 minutes left, so I think we can still do a couple more questions. If you have one, please submit it in the Q&A function. Let's move over to the next question that reads, SMEs. So the SMEs have long comprised a lower share of cross-border payments, and at the same time, they stand to benefit the most from cross-border payments, convergence, and simplification. So what kind of solutions are the most appropriate option for SMEs?
Very broad question. Again, I would just reiterate from my experience, rather than go, if you have an e-commerce website and fulfillment now, most cost-effective way was, rather than reinvent the wheel of replicating that in China, is put in some sort of payment mechanism into your existing website that allows the 1.4 billion people at least try to do e-commerce on your website. At the moment, if you don't have Alipay, WePay, or UnionPay, you cannot do e-commerce with a Chinese consumer. End of.
Yeah, I would like to add that for SMEs, I think the fintech solution is probably best solution, meaning that smaller financial companies like Nihao Pay and PanPay and 7 Days Europe are definitely happier to provide these small to medium enterprises with some payment solution, cross-border or acquiring, collection. Obviously, commercial banks tend to work with bigger corporate clients, and they tend to concentrate on lending solutions more, long-term or short-term lending. And then you have quite a few new companies, even in China, in Hong Kong, in Europe, like Lithuania, that concentrate more on other parts of financial solutions like payments. So it would be probably the best answer to all the SMEs is to just kind of seek the smaller newer financial institution, which we call fintech, to basically find the best solution we can get in the market.
Yeah, I would add that the difference between banks and fintech companies, that usually the fintech companies they are developing much faster than banks do because they are smaller. They scale is a little bit less, and they can do all the developments much faster. So most of these fintechs are able to onboard customers remotely. We have like sophisticated onboarding solutions, how to check the customer's identity, how to check the customer's documents, and etc. And as well, all the fintech companies, can do like ongoing transactions processing much faster than banks actually doing. For example, if some kind of payment is stuck in the bank for an investigation, if we're sending you a mail, please provide some kind of documents. We're waiting. We're doing this investigation for a couple of days. Fintech companies usually can do it much faster because we have in the developed solutions in their internet banks, in the apps. You can provide the documents via this applications. You get notifications, what's going on, what we needed for you, or what's the process. what's the process is now, and we can do this all this process much faster than banks do it. And then also, I think it's a benefit for these SME companies because all the flow will go much faster and more convenient with fintechs rather than banks.
Thanks for all the answers to that question. We have just a few more, and I think I would like to jump right into the next one. The next question is a very concrete one, and it's from an audience member sitting back in Europe, is asking, assuming my client in B2B wants to transfer me 10,000 euro. The client is sitting in China. How easy can the client wire the payment from China to Europe?
Well, usually the pattern of Chinese companies who are doing the business with European Union, what we're doing, we usually have sister companies in Hong Kong to doing the transactions between Europe and China region, including Hong Kong. So basically what we will do, so they will open account in Hong Kong and they will do like transfer to Europe in euros because it's much more easier and faster to do it from Hong Kong. And if you're doing it from China, so again, you have to provide the export documents or import documents, what you are buying, why do you need to pay, and etc. And it takes a long time. And here, PanPay also can help for customers. We are able to open Chinese customers' accounts in Hong Kong with our Hong Kong entity and to process these payments for them.
I would like to add, I think, it's kind of taken as a common knowledge here that everyone knows that China has capital controls, which means that we could control tightly of all incoming and outgoing foreign currency. So all the payments from China and to China have to be reviewed and confirmed by the PBOC, Central Bank of People's Republic of China, SAFE department. Basically, when you go to a bank in China and you say you want to transfer 10,000 US dollars, euros, or whatever to wherever country, the bank normally collects a lot of documentation from you and sends it to the central bank and waits for the confirmation. And it may take up to 1 month. I know that for some smaller banks, it takes longer. For some bigger government-owned banks, it takes faster and so on. There is no actual way around it, besides that, yeah, there have been some licenses issued in China for e-commerce related, tourism related, medicine, education related payment institutions, so-called cross-border, third-party cross-border payment institutions. So companies like PanPay, 7Cs Europe, probably NihaoPay partner with these local payment cross-border payment institutions, and they provide some faster solutions. However, it has some limitations on the industry, on the amounts, on what is the payment for, what kind of services or goods, and usually it's for e-commerce. It's a lot faster. You also have to provide some data with the payment as well, which does not have to be confirmed by the central bank because it's if it's e-commerce. Usually this data is just sent to the central bank for the later review, but you don't have to wait. So, it's now possible because of these companies to make these transfers fast. But yeah, as I said, it's quite a lot of limitations. If it was a simple P2P transfer, person-to-person transfer, it would be a lot more difficult than e-commerce or trade-related transfer where the goods have been exchanged between China and some other country.
Great points, and thanks for that. We have actually reached the time now. We have 1.5 question left, so I think if you don't mind, we will still go through the 1.5 question, but can probably take no more questions than that. A very quick one to you, Phelim. An audience is asking any further contact from NihaoPay to get in touch with them to understand a bit more about their services. Who to contact?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Either they can contact me or depending where they are in Europe, but absolutely my contact details are there, and I can just be a conduit through, and just depending on what country they're in, I would send them to the kind of correct person. But absolutely, they can contact me directly or through the EUSME Center.
Thank you, Philip. Maybe one thing could be, if you don't mind, if perhaps you could share an email address in the chat below, then the person could follow.
Yep, absolutely.
And as we do that, we'll go into the last question of today. The last question is about the digital payment. I'll just like to share a very brief anecdote, if you don't mind. So, of course, as you know, in Beijing, we have had half of the Olympics now, and the Paralympics will start soon. Some have been in what they call the bubble, right? So you're inside this small little world that is kind of disconnected from the rest of China to ensure the safety of everyone. So we had some in our organization joining this bubble, and inside the bubble, these people, these participants were only allowed to use cash in China. And remember, there was a lot of people kind of chuckling a little bit about it, because cash is often considered a little bit as an extinct animal in China. It's not very normal. Even if you go into a little restaurant, a little noodle shop, they'll be almost surprised and almost angry sometimes if you insist to pay your noodles with cash. So following up on that little story, there is an audience viewer that's asking about the digital currency electronic payment. In China, the digital renminbi, the digital currency, has already been enrolled to some extent. So it's kind of a broad question that I would like to ask you guys for a very brief answer on. Is the digital currency, is that the future?
I'd say yes, having experienced China, and like you said, the QR code for people on the street, or for musicians or beggars or anything, it's cash, and having only been able to get 100 RMB as the largest amount, for about 15 euro as the top amount of note that you can get. Yeah, absolutely. The way that China is hurtling down with technology, I think very much so. But there will always be a small requirement for cash, but 90+% it'll be digital.
Thank you, Philip.
I agree with Philip. So I see also the digital currencies as our future, and all of it's just in the future. I think all will be like the digital currencies, all the payments.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, and then I think with that we will slowly wrap up today's session. What I want to say is, I want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone in the audience for tuning in to today's session, and joining with questions and joining with comments in the Q&A and in the chat. Today's session on money transfers in China, the revolution of cross-border payments solutions, has been organized by the EUSME Center, together with Titus's team at Fintech Hub Lithuania, and also Eurochambres. So a big thanks from all of our side. Now, the last thing I just want to say is to everyone here, we have Egle, we have Titus, we have Justus, and we have Philip. Thank you so much for your presentations and sharing your knowledge with all of us here today. Now, then the last thing I just want to say from the EUSME Center side is, today is not the only activity we are hosting. We do have more activities coming, so please check on our website. All of our activities are always free of charge for you to join, so we highly encourage you to do so. Just reminded, there is one extra last thing I want to say before we close down. After today's session, you may receive also in your email a little link to a survey. The survey usually takes only 1 minute. It's the feedback survey for today, so the EUSME Center can hopefully improve upon our services in the future. If there's anything you wish us to do better, or if there's anything you are thinking that we aren't doing it great, we are happy to hear all of it, so we can be sure that our services in the future can be as good as possible. So with that, I have nothing more to say. Thank you all for joining and sharing and tuning in, and looking forward to see you all next time. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.